Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here with you and present to you this three-part series where we will be talking all about the data science life cycle. So this is meant to be for kind of people who are interested to get into the data science kind of world, but they don't know where to get started. We are going to be starting to talk all about the foundations, the basic concepts, what you really need to know to kind of build that framework of kind of the data science knowledge that you need to have in order to get started into this vital field. Then we will be kind of going through like a data set, exploiting the data. I will kind of teach you all the data science kind of steps that you're required to take when it comes to building your first data science model. And the last thing is we are going to actually walk through an example in the third part, and I will take you through everything that we've learned in the first two sessions. So stay tuned in this data science series. You will kind of learn so much from it and benefit so much from it, whether you are a beginner, you are a student, you are someone who is kind of, wanting to get into this field, but you don't know how. This session is for you. Thank you all so much for joining us. Before we begin, I would like to kind of ask the audience, where everyone is joining us from. I am based in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai specifically. So please let us know in the chat box or in the comments where you are joining us from. With that being said, we are going to actually start. I'm going to be sharing my slides here. So mind me that I only have one screen, so I might have to go back and forth. But that being said, let's begin. So as mentioned, today we're going to be talking about the foundations of that make up a data science lifecycle. Before we do that, as we know, this event is part of the Microsoft Reactor Code of Conduct. So obviously, we're all here to learn. So let's make this, an easygoing and light learning journey for each one of us. You just make sure to be welcoming, be respectful. If you have any kind of questions, please drop them in the chat box. I'll make sure to answer as many of them as much as possible. That being said, let me actually introduce you to myself. So if you've never been here before, if you've never attended any of our Microsoft Reactor events, my name is Hadeel Shubair, and I'm a regional cloud advocate and data analytics engineer at Microsoft Reactor Middle East and Africa. Just making sure that, okay, here we are. So I'm going to be sharing. So I just see that we have some people from Saudi Arabia, and yes. So let's go back to the slides. There was a glitch, so we're just going to go back. So as mentioned, my name is Hadeel Shubair. I am a regional cloud advocate and data analytics engineer at Microsoft Reactor Middle East and Africa. Part of what we do in the regional cloud advocacy team is we hold sessions just like this, online and in person as well, to kind of take you through the world of technology, what's new in the industry, from power platforms, from the data science, from AI, from machine learning, and from many kind of topics that you could really think about, from Microsoft Azure, the Internet of Things. Really, any kind of tech topic that really comes to your mind is what we aim to give you. And obviously, we talk all about the cloud, all about Microsoft products and technologies and solutions as well. So my areas of expertise lie around in the data science, and the AI kind of industry, and that's where I love to be at. I think we have a kind of issue here. Just let me make sure that we are doing that. Okay. I think it should be clear now for the slides to show. Just giving it a minute. Okay. Let me know if the slides are showing for you guys. But that being said, I am going to continue presenting. So what are we going to be learning today? Today we are going to be exploring the world of data science. I'll be taking you through all the foundational concepts that you need to know in data science, from the data science lifecycle to the stages and phases that you need to know in a data science lifecycle, and the phases as I'm going to be kind of be sharing for you some of my expertise on how you can get started in the data science field as well. So I'm just going to kind of just make sure that everything is working here. Slides are not showing. Okay, just a And here we are as well. I'm not sure there's a glitch today, but bear with me. Can you let me know if the slides are showing now, please? Okay, I think the slides are showing now. Finally, we got it sorted. So, sorry about the glitch earlier. So, as I mentioned, today we will be talking all about the data science life cycle, the basic foundations of what make up a data science life cycle. So, we're going to be kind of exploring the world of data science. We're going to go through an overview of the data science life cycle, what it contains, what the stages and phases are, what you really need to know in order to build your first data science model. So to kind of build that framework, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Then I'm going to give you from my expertise what are some of my tips and tricks that could help you get started in the data science field if you are just starting. So, before we start, let's start by defining data science. Data science is just like its name, it is the science of data. So, data science kind of uses data is kind of numbers, facts, raw facts, and kind of information and statistics that are that are recorded every single day. Science is actually what we use in order to kind of make observations and scientific information in order to kind of make and build predictive models. So data science together is kind of the domain of study that deals with lots and massive huge amounts of data that uses obviously modern tools and technologies to help us kind of make better decision making. It helps with data science. You can find unseen patterns. You are able to derive meaningful information from the data that you have, and that will all help you make better decisions in your organization. So data science actually kind of focuses on using machine learning algorithms to build predictive models. Now, the goal of data science is basically it's all about extracting raw information in order to transform them into meaningful and valuable insights. So this actually requires an understanding of you need to know where your data is coming from. You need to know how the information flows in a business, and it requires an understanding of the ability that you can use to understand to identify any kind of business opportunities there is out there. So we can actually say that data science is obviously the union of two separate fields, data and science. As mentioned before, data is all about statistics, information, and facts that are collected together for reference or analysis. And we generate lots of data every single day from maybe, let's say, social media clicks, video cameras, sensors, so much data that is actually generated every single day that are generated by us. And this will only actually continue to grow. But this data doesn't really make sense until you have the science to it. So science is where you use the study of the structure and behavior of the world through observation, experimentation, and testing of theories, which helps you kind of get to a point where you actually can make predictions or observations. So in simple terms, we can say that data science is actually applying the science on the data, and it's all about turning raw data into meaningful and valuable insights which you can benefit from. So now today we can say that data has become the new oil that is driving businesses today. Today, we live in a world in 2023, we live in a world where data is actually, and data science is being integrated in every single sector there is out there. So any sector that you could think of, from banking to finance to retail, to let's say healthcare industry, the education industry, transportation, airlines, every single sector that you could really think of is actually depending on data in order to make better decisions for their industries or for their organizations. That's why it's very important for us to go through the data science project lifecycle in detail. So kind of building that data science lifecycle kind of phases and understanding each step and what the importance of each step, it will help you kind of be able to build your first data science model or get started into your first data science project. So we can officially say that data science actually uses, since it's the science of data, it uses scientific methods, algorithms, processes, and systems that help you extract valuable knowledge and insights from both structured and unstructured data. And here, as we can see in this figure, data science is actually kind of a combination of all these things, like all these terms fall under data science. So It begins with scientific methods. It has real world applications. You have data visualization, statistical modeling, statistical computing, data technology, data research, and data consulting. All of these fall around and underneath the umbrella of data science, and each one is important on its own. Now, when it comes to actual data, so data can be actually, separated into three sources or three kind of categories. So we have structured data, unstructured data, and semi-structured data. It's very important to know the difference between each one of these, because when you are a data scientist, or when you're working on a project that has a data set, you need to kind of understand what format your data set is coming from. Is it structured? Is it unstructured? Or is it semi-structured? So let's explore each one separately. So structured data is data that is basically structured. So it is very organized. It comes usually in in like a sheet, which is separated into and organizes into rows and columns. And that data is usually easy to search. It's text based, and it is kind of like the common data set that you always kind of want to see. So structured data examples that you could see could be some like dates. You have phone number catalogs, customer names, let's say product names as well. So anything that's really organized into like a sheet which has rows and columns and is in perfect predefined format, that is structured data. When it comes to unstructured data, it's the exact opposite of structured. So it is data that is completely does not have any structure to it. So when it does not have any kind of structure to it, it is extremely difficult to search. So the best examples we can see for unstructured data come in the forms of videos, images, audio files, big documents, emails as well, messages, for example, surveys from other people. So this is where unstructured data comes from. Semi-structured data is data that is structured, but in a specific way, it does not have complete structure to it. So the best example for this is you have tweets, you have tweets on Twitter, obviously you have hashtags, you have emails sorted by folders, and so much more. So these are the three types of data sources that you need to understand: structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. Now, let's kind of move on to what is the need for data science? Why do all organizations, businesses, and why do us as humans need data science today? So, if you don't know yet, we as humans generate around 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every single day. And 2.5 quintillion, you have 2.5 and then a staggering number of 18 zeros after it. So you can only imagine how huge this number is. And with the rise of these new big technologies that we have today, from you have the Internet of Things, you have the big data, artificial intelligence, you have the metaverse, you have the mixed reality, and all these new huge technologies that are coming up, data science and machine learning. This number is expected to even increase even more. So it's very important to know that us, since we generate this amount of data, this massive amount of data every single day, we will not be able to make benefit of this data until we actually analyze it. So this is why this data science is extremely important. So back in the days, data used to be, obviously we did not have all these new technologies, and we did not have sensors and tracking devices and social media and all those stuff. So back in the days, the data that we used to get was much less and generally accessible, in a much easier format. They would usually be spread into Excel sheets, and with the help of any kind of tools, this data was able to be processed efficiently. But now, since we deal with this huge amount of data, 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every single day, this kind of is impossible to do for us to analyze, on its own. This is why we have kind of a huge explosion of records and data that need to be generated and analyzed every single second. So to handle and evaluate this data, you might ask me, okay, Hadeel, we have all this data, but how are we going to actually analyze it? How are we going to make benefit from this data? This is where data science actually comes into the picture. Data science provides, obviously, it uses all machine learning technologies and algorithms and technologies that, the kind of help with evaluating and handling and analyzing the data that we have. So this is why data science is data science is considered one of the most important technologies that we have in the world today, and it will continue to be a very important one in the decades coming. So as we mentioned earlier, the principal purpose or the main goal of data science is to help us find patterns within data. So obviously, let's say you receive a data set which is organized into rows and columns, and it is all about, for example, your customer data. Let's say you have a supermarket and you have customers, and you have let's say a row that has customer names, their numbers, what products they buy most, and what products, let's say, they don't really buy. So this data set will not really make sense to you, like why what you are not able to know why this product is selling so fast and why this product is not selling so fast until you actually look at the data set and try to find patterns within the data and extract insights from it. So this is where data science actually comes to play. Data science actually helps you find patterns within the data to understand where where there are weaknesses, where there are strengths, and what you can do to make better decisions in your organization. So data science actually uses the statistical techniques to help you analyze and draw insights from the data. You have data extraction, data wrangling, data manipulation, data pre-processing, data visualization. All of these kind of um, uh, you know techniques are actually very important for, let's say, the data scientist to actually know and be able to kind of understand. And the importance of data science is actually based on the ability to take historical or existing data that is not really useful and being able to, have the power of extracting, insights and combining it with other data points in order to help you make more, meaningful insights in the organization, which help you learn more about your customers, your audience, your business, and so much more. So data science is actually a very important tool to where we are actually at today. Now, some primary motives for the use of data science technology and why data science is actually, used, as it helps convert. Obviously, since we have a massive amount of data that is unstructured and comes into different formats, from videos, images, audios, and let's say and big documents. Data science actually helps convert this quantity of unstructured records into actual significant insights, which can help us, benefit. It can assist in obviously making unique predictions, such as the range of surveys, elections, and so much more. Data science actually also helps in kind of in these new kind of technologies that we have. So it helps in automating transportation, in such as growing a self-driving car, we can say, which is the future of transportation. So obviously we have Tesla that we all know today, and the way Tesla has been programmed is it was using data science and machine learning in order to it is kind of an AI technology that actually helps the car to drive on its own. So this is why it's very important to understand that data science is actually helping in many ways, from automating transportation, from the healthcare industry, to helping them kind of come up with new, medicine and drugs for, let's say, very unique diseases, and so much more. And companies are actually, obviously, most companies and organizations are shifting toward data science and opting for this technology to help them make more insights of the big amount of data that they have and that they generate every single day. So, with the use of information and algorithms, it helps them kind of understand, their audience and what they can do to improve and make it a better customer experience for their users. So now let's kind of move on more into the data science lifecycle. What is a typical data science lifecycle, and why is it so important to understand? When it comes to data science lifecycle is basically a cycle of kind of steps that happen in a data science project. So there are iterative steps that are taken to help you build, deliver, understand, maintain any data science product. So when it comes to the data science lifecycle, there are a number of kind of lifecycle. There's not one specific typical, let's say, lifecycle that could be used in all data science projects. However, we can kind of look through the most general and the most important steps that you really need to know, that will help you, kind of, build and be able to use, to go through your data science project. Now, a general data science lifecycle actually consists of using machine learning algorithms that help you build and train your models, and statistical practices as well that result in better prediction models. What is the goal of us using data science? The goal of us to using data science is we want to build prediction models. We want to be able to make better decisions. So this is where some of the most common data science steps are involved. And the most common data science steps that are involved that you would usually see would be data extraction, data collection, data pre-processing and cleaning, data preparation, data modeling, and data evaluation. So we will go through actual more detailed steps for you to actually understand and to keep in the back of your mind so you can know what steps you need to take. A typical data science process in the real world could look like this. So in reality, in the beginning, the first step you need to do is to collect your raw data. So once you collect your raw data, this data can be taken from different sources. You have primary sources and secondary sources, and primary sources could be, let's say from your products. From your product data. Secondary sources can be from, let's say, surveys and such. So once you collect the data that is the raw data that is required for your project, you will then start by processing your data. What do we mean by processing our data? That means we look at our data and we start kind of processing on its own to make sure that sometimes the data sets that we have come in a format that is not really clean and in a good format. So this is where we have to process the data and take it through actual specific data processing and data cleaning steps to help make sure that this data is actually clean and ready for us to go. Once we have a clean data set, we will actually go through the exploratory data analytics step. This is where data scientists actually look at the data to actually discover any kind of hidden patterns, any unique relationships that you can have, to highlight the different important factors that you have in the data set, and kind of to derive your own conclusions on what's important in the data set. After you kind of explore your data and kind of make your own decisions on it, you will kind of actually go through the data modeling step. This is where you actually use the data models and machine learning algorithms to start building your model. After you actually build your model and go through the data modeling step, you will actually have a result. So you will start by looking at your results, and this is where you will kind of plot your results in a kind of a data visualization using data visualization tools, and kind of graphs and figures to help you transform your data from numbers into actual graphs and figures that help you see where your most selling product was, what year was the highlight of the most sales that you've gotten. So obviously seeing visualization reports helps you understand your numbers better. After you look at your visualization reports, you will kind of be able to make decisions from there. So you will see where are your weaknesses and where are your strongest points and what you need to work to improve your data science project. After that, you will be able to deploy your model into the real world. So after making sure your model is tested and trained and it's done all the kind of heavy lift and heavy work, then your data product will be deployed into the real world. So this is how a typical data science process could look like in the real world. Now, who are involved in the projects of data science? Who are the people who need to understand the data science lifecycle and need to understand why we need to use these steps? You have domain experts, business analysts, data scientists, machine learning engineers, and data engineers and architects. Of course, you have so many more, like, let's say, you have, for example, business scientists, you have data analysts and data for example, students who are just getting started. But these are kind of the main people who are involved in this data science lifecycle project. So the domain expert is actually, this is where you actually look at where the data science projects are applied in different sectors or domains in the industry. So you have different domains such as the healthcare, like the education sector, retail, banking, transportation, petroleum, and so much more. The domain expert is actually the person who has the experience of a particular domain and obviously knows in and out of the domain. So domain experts actually depend on data science so much to help them make decisions based on their industry. So as let's take the education sector as an example. A domain expert in the education sector will actually use data science to help to help build kind of solutions for kind of students to make it easier for them to learn online, for example. Or it will actually use self-learning robots that will actually help teach the students without the presence of an actual teacher. So this is where it comes into play. Business analysts are actually these are the experts who are all about understanding the needs of the business and the domain identified. This is where also they depend heavily, obviously, on data science to help them analyze their business needs. When it comes to data scientists, just like its name, it is the expert of data. This is where the data scientist is. So the data scientists actually work all around scientific techniques and tools and understanding these algorithms and everything really that goes behind the scenes of what work out a solution and what really makes up a data product come to life. When it comes to machine learning engineers, these are the experts who rely heavily on, obviously, which models you need to understand to apply onto your data science project in order to help you kind of produce the correct and required output. So in machine learning, we actually have, obviously, a lots of algorithms that you can use for your data science project. So it really depends on your goal and what you really want to do, that it will help you understand what machine learning algorithm that you need to use. So for example, you want to classify images, you would use an image classification algorithm. You want to predict, you will use any kind of prediction kind of algorithms that you have, and so much more. You have, and the last person who would kind of depend on the data science lifecycle would be a data engineer and architect or data analyst. And these are the experts in actually doing all the heavy technical lifting in the data, from data modeling and such. And they actually use visualization for data to better understand their numbers, as well as the storage and the retrieval of data, which is looked after them. So now let's actually move on to how we can start learning data science with Python. So Python is actually considered one of the most popular languages, coding languages there is out there for you to learn your data science journey. If you are only getting started and you don't know what coding language you need to learn, I would highly recommend Python because it's relatively simple, it's very easy to learn, it provides great functionality to deal with mathematics, statistical methods, and scientific functions. It's actually one of the best languages used by data science in general for various data science projects and applications. And it is obviously a high level language which is very easy to use and just has some specific rules and functions that you need to follow. And it works as a like as a strong base for you to build and start with your data science project. So when it comes to Python, also why I love Python so much is Python actually has a number of libraries that help you get started into your data science project. So whether your goal is to, let's say, you want to clean your data, you want to use data visualization, you want to use some data modeling, data wrangling, data manipulation, and all that, Python requires a number of libraries that can do each of these tasks. Let's explore some of these libraries. So some of the important and very kind of common libraries that you will always see in data science with Python is NumPy, scikit-learn, pandas, and so much more. Let's talk about NumPy. NumPy is actually used for everything that has to do with mathematical functions to operate on these array. It's a library that's used in programming, in Python programming, that supports anything that has to do with arrays and numbers and mathematical functions and such. When it comes to scikit-learn, scikit-learn is actually used for classification, regression, and prediction problems and clustering algorithms. And it has a number of algorithms that are included there, such as support vector machines, you have random forest, gradient boosting, and so much more. So you always see in most data science projects, they always use scikit-learn library to help with, that has various classification, regression, or clustering algorithms as well. When it comes to pandas, pandas is actually used mainly for data manipulation and analysis. So it actually offers kind of the data operations and structures that help in enumerating tables and time series data sets. We also have matplotlib. Matplotlib is actually used for data visualization, and it is used for numerical mathematics extension. We have TensorFlow. TensorFlow is also an open source software library which is used across a range of tasks such as machine learning applications and neural networks and so much more. And you have Keras. Keras is also used to focus on enabling fast experimentation and so much more. So it's very important for you to kind of keep these in the back of your mind as you're going through learning your data science kind of journey. Know these libraries and what each one does, because you will most of the time see most of these used in any single data science project that you have. They help a lot with your data visualization, data manipulation, and data kind of cleaning as well. So of course, alongside another a huge other list of libraries, but these for me are the main ones that you need to know. Now let's actually talk about the core of our kind of presentation today, which is the life cycle of data science. As we mentioned, the data science steps, there is not an official kind of format that you need to follow for the data science steps. However, it really depends on the data science project and your business requirements and your needs and what you really want to do as a data scientist. That's what really your goal is actually. So it's very important to know that each step in the life cycle should be performed carefully, and any kind of improper execution will affect the following step. So you need to make sure that every step you do really well and you don't miss on anything, so it doesn't impact the entire process. And obviously, the main aim is to build a framework and solutions to help you kind of achieve your data model. Let's look at a typical data science life cycle and the steps that you would actually see in every single project. So the first one is to identify problems and understand the business needs. The second one is to actually collect the data that you have based on your goal. Then you will start by processing and cleaning your data through obviously a number of data cleaning techniques and steps that you need to know. Then you will start by analyzing your data. This is where all the kind of you use the exploratory data analytics to discover and extract any hidden patterns, any relationships that you can find, and kind of find where the highlights or the core kind of points that you need to focus on are. Then this is where the heavy lifting comes into play, or the technical statistical kind of data analyst kind of role comes into play. This is where you start by data modeling. Here you actually use machine learning algorithms to start by training and training and testing your data. After you have your result and your data project is done and your model is built, this is where you actually start by deploying your model into the real world. So this is what a typical general data science lifecycle could actually look like. And these are the important, life cycle phases that you need to always keep in the back of your mind in any that are required for as a framework for any data science project that you are building. Let's look and explore these phases into more detail. So when it comes to identifying problems and understanding the business, this is where you actually ask the why. This is where you, as a data analyst or data scientist or a machine learning engineer, you need to ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is the goal? By the end of this project, what am I trying to achieve? So you need to answer the basic questions, including your requirements, what you're trying to achieve, your priorities, and so much more. After that, you will start by collecting your data. And collecting your data can come from relevant sources, either in structured data or unstructured data form. So you can collect your data from online, through surveys, from giving service to other people. And obviously today, since we live in a world where we have the internet, you can easily find lots of data sets, but make sure that they come from relevant sources and they are related to your goal. After you collect your data, you have your data in hand, and you specified your goal, you need to go through the data processing step, which is data cleaning. So making sure that there is no garbage data and you actually have clean data to make sure that the data that you start, working on is actually clean and organized and does not have any kind of mistakes or any kind of, weird patterns and such. Then you will move on to the data analysis kind of step. And this is where you actually, as a data scientist and analyst, as I mentioned, you start by exploring the data on a high level overview to get an insight on what your data has and to discover any relationships and patterns. Then you will move on to the data modeling step, which you actually define and select the appropriate model based on your goal to actually help you achieve your goal. Then you will deploy your model in the real world out there. So these are the typical phases that you really need to know, and the description for each phase. I just want to stop here before we continue and explore this more, just to kind of check if you have any questions. Okay, perfect. All good. Awesome. Now we're going to actually continue by talking about these major steps in more detail. And the whole goal of this kind of data science lifecycle, series is to help you understand and build this framework for you to be able to kind of build whatever data science project you have. So let's say your goal was to predict the number of sales for your business in the next few years. Let's say you want to predict the weather forecast. Let's say you want to classify, like a cancer image, whether it's cancers or not. So, whatever your goal really is and whatever you are really trying to achieve, this is where it's very important to understand these steps to help you kind of get through these phases and, in a clear way. So, the major steps we have in the life cycle of a data science project in more detail is the first one is to identify your problem. This is actually the most important and the most crucial step in any data science project. The first thing you need to do is to clearly state, you need to have at least one goal that you need to clearly state what it is you're trying to achieve by the end of the project. So, is it that you're trying to predict the weather forecast? Is it that you're trying to predict the number of sales that you will have in the upcoming years for your business? Is it that you're trying to kind of see, you want to classify something, or you want to classify two categories? For example, you want to classify people from males to females. Whatever really your goal is, you need to be very clear about it, and you need to clearly have at least one statement that defines what your objective is. So it's very important to be very clear about identifying what the problem is, and this is where it comes to play to actually look at the why do you want to why do you want to achieve this. So you need to actually take into mind the requirements that you have in mind and the goals that you need to do to achieve. The next step is business understanding. It's very important to understand what you as a business owner, or what the customer exactly wants from the business perspective, and why they should do it. Is it that you want to improve your sales? Do you want to minimize the loss that you have? Do you want to optimize any particular process? Do you want to open a new branch for your store? So this all of these actually form the business goals that you have. So it's very important to know and to understand clearly what your business needs. Do you want to predict something? Do you want to classify something? What really is it? And this phase should actually clearly state the problem that requires the solutions and why it should be resolved at once. You need to be able to define the potential value of any business project. You need to be able to obviously find the risks, including any aspects that could contribute to the projects, and build obviously a highly integrated, flexible project plan on how you're actually going to achieve this goal. So after you've clearly identified your problem, you've understood what your customer exactly wants from the business perspective, the next step is to actually collect your data. Data collection is actually one of the most important steps as well in any data science project, because you are not just going to go out there and try to collect any data that you see. You need to make sure that the data that you collect is actually relevant to the goal that you're trying to achieve. So if you are willing to maximize the sales of your products for your store in the next few years, you need to kind of collect data that is related. You need to collect product data, not data that is based on let's say I don't know, birds, for example. So it needs to be very relevant, and you need to kind of make sure that it is relevant from relevant sources. There are various ways that data will flow into the system, and some of the data collection methods that you could see come from primary sources or secondary sources. And here are some of the following examples that you could see where data can be collected from. So you have surveys, you have social media clicks, you have archives, transactional data, enterprise data, statistical methods, and so much more. So when it comes to data collection, as I mentioned, this is where you gather raw data from relevant sources. And it's important to know that data here, the data you collect can come either in a format of structured or unstructured data. So the data you could get can be organized into rows and columns and completely perfect, easily readable, and all that stuff. Or it can come in a unstructured form, such as obviously in video files, in audios, images, and so much more. So this is where you actually need to look at the data you have in hand and see where it actually comes from. The methods of collecting data might come from several places, such as social media data, as we mentioned, data from online repositories, and even logs from website, and even data that's streamed from online sources, or as well as scraping. Web scraping is also another very kind of common tool that you could use for data collection, where you scrape the web for finding your data. So it's very important to know that when it comes to data collection, it is important to collect the data that is relevant to your goal and to what you are trying to achieve. After you've collected your data, this is where you start by looking at the data you have in hand and start by seeing what it has. So this is the step where you actually pre-process the data. This is where you actually analyze the data you have to look for any patterns, any biases, any ranges, and distributions of values. This is where kind of you actually start by cleaning the data in a way, and you look at the data you have in hand and you make sure that there are no kind of errors, and what kind of trends you have and patterns in the data that you have as well. This is where you can actually also use data visualization tools that could really help you. Obviously, with data visualization, I mean figures, charts, plots that help you transform your raw data into actual figures to understand what these numbers actually mean. So this is where you can see simple bar charts, line charts, pie charts, and so much more. So this is actually, when it comes to data processing, this is actually the most time-consuming step. Actually, most data scientists would agree that this step actually takes 80% of their time in the whole data science lifecycle project, because it's very important to make sure that the data, before it goes through the data modeling and analysis step, that the data you have in hand is actually clean, free of any errors, free of any kind of missing entries, and so much more. So this is where you actually have to use specific data preprocessing and the cleaning techniques in order to make sure that the data you have in hand is actually clean. So because and why this takes so much of the data scientist's time is because the goodness of the data model depends on the data processing stage. So if you have bad data, you have a bad model. If you have good data, you will have an excellent model. So this is why this is very important. So after we've cleaned our data, we have our data, it's ready to go. This is where we move to the next step, which is data analysis. And when it comes to data analysis, there is another term which we call exploratory data analytics, EDA. And this is a term that you will probably hear a lot in the data science world. And this is where you actually explore the data that you have in hand to kind of find any features, relationships, discover any kind of hidden patterns between the data sets. And this also helps in kind of helping you understand your data better, and what the features that could be selected to help you, that can help you apply to the model that you end up choosing. So this is where actually more data statistics and mathematical functions are used, and we use this is where experts use data statistic methods such as the mean, the median, the mode, first quartile, second quartile, and third quartile to actually better understand the data exactly that you have in hand. And this is also where data kind of experts, when it comes to analyzing the data, they would plot the data and assess the distribution patterns you have using kind of histograms and population distributions and so much more. Depending on the issues, the data will be analyzed. So the key aspect to remember here is that your input determines your output. That's why it's very important to analyze our data and gain some ideas about the solution that we have that could affect the data science lifecycle before we move on to the next step. The next step is the data modeling step. This is actually often mentioned as the heart of data analysis. This is where all the technical kind of mathematical, statistical, work comes into play. This is where you actually start by building your model. You would select the model depending on your goal and what you want to do, and the model should be prepared and analyzed to help provide you the desired output that you're trying to achieve. So in this phase, this is where kind of the data team would work together to develop data sets for training and for testing the model for production purposes. So usually the data set that you have in hand, you would kind of separate it into, a training data set and a testing data set. So when it comes to trading, you will actually use most of the data. So let's say 80% of the data would be used to train the model, because you are basically teaching a model to act or to kind of do what what you want it to do. So you need to take most of the data that you have in hand to train your model. Then the other 20% of the data sets could be used for testing. This is where you get actually new data from that you've never used on your model before, and you actually test the model to see if it's actually working correctly. So so choosing the appropriate model type, and it's very important to learn whether the problem is a classification, a regression, or a clustering problem. So this is why it's very important for you to understand the different machine learning algorithms we have, because in the data modeling phase, you need to be familiar with the different machine learning algorithms and what each one does, and depending on what you're trying to solve, you will be able to actually select what model works best for you to give you the desired outcome. After analyzing the data model, you will choose obviously the algorithms to implement them, and this is very important because it helps you kind of move on to the next steps. So we've modeled our data, all the heavy work is done. The next step is to actually evaluate our model. This is very important. It's one of the most important steps as well, because you need to kind of see, is your model actually working right or is it not? Is what you're trying to achieve actually, working or not? So this is why it's very important to look at the model evaluation or the monitoring phase. This is where the modeling is actually now tested with actual data. So to monitor your model, you will actually get actual data, and the data could be very few, and this is where the output is monitored for improvement. You will actually see how your model is actually working based on what you taught it or what it has been trained on, and then you will decide if it's an effective model or not. And this is a very important step before you move on to kind of the next step. So after you've evaluated your model, you've monitored it, this is where you will actually train the model. Now, once the task and the model are finalized, the next important step is actually to train the model. Training can be done in actually specific phases or steps where the important parameters can be further fine-tuned to help you get the desired outcome or the accurate output that you want to look. So the model is here is actually exposed to actual data in the production phase, and the output is then monitored. So you need to make sure that after you've kind of built your model and you've trained it, that it is actually after using and implementing the machine learning algorithm, that it is actually going through the cycle of the training of the model. Then you will actually deploy the model. So once the model is actually trained with the actual data that you fed it and the parameters are fine-tuned, then the model is actually completely done, executed, and deployed. This is where the model is actually exposed to real-time data, which flow into the system, and the output is then generated. So here, this is where you kind of look at the model, in the real world. Once you deploy the model, you actually kind of feed it like real actual data, and then based on that, the model should be able to give you the outcome easily because you have trained it and you've tested it. So now you need to see, after you've evaluated it, that it should be working well with real actual data. This is a very important step, as now the model is exposed to the real world. Then you have deployed your model, and in the real world, what's the next step? The next step is to actually look at how the model is actually performing or behaving in real world scenarios. So you need to actually, take the model, and it will be used to help you get insights, to help you make better decision making related to your business or your organization or your goal. The business goals are bound to the insights that the model gives them. So you will actually start by kind of, monitoring how your model is actually working in the real world. And based on that, you will take insights and generate reports that will help you identify if your goals are kind of achieved or not. So this is where you, once you generate these reports, you will use data visualization tools, very important, to help you see if your goals are met and your needs are met, and if the indicators are kind of achieved or not. After you've kind of grabbed your insights, it's very important to take a decision based on the insights that you have. So it's very important to kind of, the last step we could say is, after you've kind of followed all this data science lifecycle steps and you understood each one very carefully, this is where you actually get the reports generated that help you make the key decisions that you're willing to take for your organization. These insights help in taking strategic decisions, help you build your prediction, make your predictions. For example, the organization can predict that there will be needs of specific products, of raw materials in advance, of let's say even Google Maps. Google Maps uses real-time data, for example, to help you see where, if there is like a specific route that you can use to avoid traffic, or if there is a construction on the way, or if there is a blocked road, and so much more. So this is where it's very important, where data science is very important, because it really is used in every single sector out there to help you make important decisions related to business growth, and even better revenue generation, and even make better predictions. So we can finalize all of these steps by saying that the data science lifecycle is actually, you know a completely, very important kind of phase, which you need to understand when it comes to building your first data science project or building your first data science model. You need to be familiar with all these steps that we have talked about in detail, and make sure that you don't miss any step, or you don't make any kind of errors or mistakes in any steps that will not lead to impacting the whole process that you have. So we can say in conclusion that obviously data science is the oil of the new industry, and now it is the buzzword that's used in obviously many technologies, because you can find the success of it being used in many applications in many industries, from healthcare, education, retail and finance, banking, and anything you could really think of. So, right from the petroleum industry to retail to education, everyone is actually benefiting so much from the data science to help make better decisions in what they are trying to achieve. And it's very important to carefully understand the data science lifecycle and implement the steps indicated to help you in growing your business. In the next kind of session or two, obviously this is the first part of the three sessions that we have. We will be kind of taking you through more detailed examples of these data science lifecycle steps, from exploiting the data and actually building the model. So we're actually going to build the model together, and I'm going to actually take you through the actual steps that you need to know before you build the model. But as a framework, this is very important for you to have. Now you might ask me, Hadeel, okay, I've learned all of this, I know now the data science lifecycle, how can I actually get started? What are your tips and tricks on getting started into the field of data science? Where do I begin? My tips on how to get started into data science are actually summarized into a few steps. And it's very important from my expertise. I come from a background of data analytics. I have a master's in data analytics. I've studied this by heart. So I will teach you in the most simple way what steps you need to know in order to help you get started into the data science field. So to get started in data science, the first step is to be familiar with the core concepts and build your knowledge of the foundational concepts. Data science is a huge kind of, let's say, it's a sea of lots and lots of, important concepts. So in order to get familiar with the core concepts, it's important to, use a trusted source where you can actually learn everything you need to know about this vital field. And to get yourself familiar with the core concepts, my best kind of resource or source that you can actually use or learn from is your Microsoft Learn platform. So if you just Google Microsoft Learn, you will find a platform that opens up lots of free learning resources for every single kind of technology topic that you could think of. So whether if you're trying to get started into data science, you can just write data science, and it will give you lots of learning modules and paths to help you understand and build your framework. If you're trying to learn about artificial intelligence, about machine learning algorithms, you will just type in the search bar in the Microsoft Learn platform, and it will give you everything you need to know. Also, another one is the GitHub platform. GitHub is obviously very famous used for obviously data science projects and such. And we actually have a GitHub kind of platform for Microsoft where it actually provides data science for beginners curriculums and AI for beginners curriculums and machine learning for beginners curriculums, which are extremely important if you're getting started. So um, I actually want to share with you in the next slide the actual learning resources for Microsoft Learn and GitHub for you to actually scan. So get your phones ready. You're going to scan them, and they will immediately direct you to the actual links of where you can actually get started in data science. The next step, after you've gotten yourself familiar with the core concepts, the next step is to learn a programming language. So your best bet is Python. As I mentioned earlier, Python is easily readable. It's a high integrated kind of open source language, and it provides lots of amazing libraries that help you get started into your data science project. Obviously, you can use whatever you are really comfortable using or learning, but your best bet if you're just getting started is Python. The next step is to learn data analysis, manipulation, and visualization. And in order to learn these kind of techniques, you will use the pandas library. So try to understand, obviously, take kind of some learn all about pandas, all about that library and what it does and all that stuff. Then you will learn machine learning. Machine learning is actually the heart and the core of any data science project, because once you want to build your solution or your model, this is where machine learning algorithms are being used. So to learn machine learning, you would use the scikit-learn library. So also it's very important to build a framework and understand what scikit-learn is all about. Then after you've built these foundational concepts, you've learned a programming language, you've learned all about data analysis, how to visualize your data, how to manipulate your data, and you've learned all about the machine learning algorithms that you have in details and what you could use depending on your goal. You have to start by building and using hands-on projects. So go online and start learning and practicing. Go online and search for any data science project that you're interested in or you're passionate about, and you will find plenty of solutions out there. So look at them and start implementing your knowledge based on what you have learned in the steps before. The last and important step that for me is actually extremely important is to connect yourself with the data science community that helps you um, you know, meet like-minded people, to exchange ideas and get to know about any opportunities in the field. So if you live in a country, try to find around you if you have a data science kind of community. If not, we live in a world obviously where everything around us is online. We have the internet. We're lucky to have plenty of free resources. So you can use our Meetup platform. So just Google Meetup, Microsoft Reactor Middle East and Africa, and this is where you can join our Meetup group, which actually has everything that we have, all about the upcoming events, not only data science, and even every single tech kind of, topic that you can think about. You have other cloud advocates just like me and other experts and speakers that always provide these online sessions on Microsoft Reactor. So make sure to stay connected, because it is very important. That being said, let's actually, since we only have an hour, obviously, to do this session, I would highly recommend for you to grab your phones and scan these two QR codes that are actually learning resources for you to start beginning your data science journey. If you would like to learn with me and begin your data science journey, your first step is now. Don't postpone it. This is your chance to actually use our two free learning resources that are absolutely useful for you if you're only getting started and you don't know and you would maybe get lost or anything. So I'm just going to give a minute for you all to scan the learning resources that we have on your phone. So the first one is a GitHub Data Science for Beginners curriculum. It has everything you need to know from getting started into data science, defining data science, the different data science steps that you have. You also have some kind of important foundational concepts that you need to know, and so much more. And the next link is a Microsoft Learn learning path, which is all about introduction to Python in data science. This is actually your best bet to actually learn everything you need to know from Python and the different libraries that you have and starting to build your first data science project. So highly recommend you all to check these two links out. I am going to just in the chat, just in case you were not able to, um, you know, uh, scan for any reason, I am going to post them in the chat. Okay. Oh, I see lots of questions here. So I'm going to actually be uh, looking at the questions at the end, right when we're done. Let me just paste this one more time. I think there is a problem here. Okay, awesome. This is where you can learn. This is the GitHub platform. Make sure to scan it and make sure to go through the curriculum because it's very detailed. It's very useful. I personally use it for my slides and my content and my learning journey. So it's absolutely very useful. The next one is the Microsoft Learn platform that we have here. Make sure to also scan it or check it out because it's absolutely extremely useful as well. So you can either click on them in the chat box or I will go back to the slides to make sure that you scan them again. That being said, we are done for today. Thank you all so much for joining us in the first session of the Data Science Lifecycle three-part series. Today, we are done with the first part. So if you would like to continue learning with me and knowing more about the data and the science behind the data and what you really need to know to start building your first data science project or data science model, join me on 21st of February next week, where we'll be talking about the exploiting the data. This is a very important step. It continues on this series, so make sure not to miss it. It will be on 4 p.m. GST Dubai time, so make sure not to miss it out. That being said, thank you all so much for joining us. I would had an absolute pleasure teaching you and having you learn alongside with me. And with that being said, I'm just going to go back very quickly to the stream that we have here and see any questions that we have. So I have seen, obviously, so I actually obviously asked where we have people coming from. So we have people from Saudi Arabia, from Indonesia, I see, and so much more. So we have also someone who was saying, "Hi Hadeel, can you tell us how to work with data with very high correlation?" Yes, hi Salman. This is actually something we're going to be covering in the next two sessions. This was more of a foundational kind of session. So make sure to stay tuned and watch the second and the third session where I will actually be covering this topic actually in high depth because it has a specific kind of detailed answer to it. So make sure to kind of watch that session. Thank you all so much I hope for the comments, having a great session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It was absolutely, a pleasure teaching you all. And I think for the last question here that I've just missed, I don't want to miss it. Can you give tips to develop a mindset of a data scientist? So as I mentioned before, I'm actually just going to share my screen again here. Back to stream. Just right before we end, I just want to make sure to answer this one. So to get the kind of the mindset of a data scientist, it's very important to first, obviously, as I mentioned, you need to kind of be familiar with the core concepts, understand the programming language. You need to be open to learning because data science is actually a sea of, all these data science concepts, and you might actually feel that you don't know where to get started and how to develop the right mindset. But to develop the right mindset, it's pretty simple. You need to be open to learning and you need to not give up. You need to practice, practice, practice. So your best bet is to practice. And, after you've learned all about the core concepts and you've learned your programming language and you've learned all about analysis, data visualization tools, and you've learned all about machine learning algorithms, you have to start by actually having the confidence to actually start by looking at hands-on projects and actually working on them. So it's all about learning and practicing. It is not hard. It's very easy. Python makes it very easy for you to learn as well. So that's why it's very important, again, to scan these two learning resources, understand them very well, and read through them and complete them. I would highly recommend for you to complete these two learning resources because they are your best bet to actually getting started. Then you will have lots of confidence to start actually building your data science project. So to build your a data scientist mindset, you just need to be confident. You need to be open to trying kind of new things, and you need to obviously make sure that you are always out there looking at any kind of opportunities there are in the field and all that stuff. That being said, I hope I answered all the questions we have here. Thank you all so much for sticking around. I can't wait to see you all in my next session on the 21st of February at 4 p.m. GST. Thank you all so much, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye.